Continued rain for the West Coast, ice and snow for the Midwest, and fire for the Eastern Rockies. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Pew. It's January 4th, 2026. So for the West Coast in general, going all the way from Washington State to California, you guys have been seeing isolated to scattered heavy rain, but mostly for California, especially in the Central and Central Valley. As of last night and this morning, you guys are still seeing that continuous heavy rain, and unfortunately, this is pretty much going to continue until late evening and even beyond midnight, especially if you live adjacent to the Sahara, Nevada. And so the Weather Prediction Center did issue a marginal risk for a flash flooding for most of the state of California and that slight risk around the Sahara, Nevada, as all these areas have been seeing rain for the past like 5 to 6 days, so the ground is already saturated. And those on the west coastline are definitely going to see another round of rain. So for example, in the coastlines of Oregon and Washington, you guys are probably going to see something around 11 a.m. Pacific time today. And some of this wave of precipitation is going to travel downstate as well to places like Northern California around like 4 p.m. Pacific time, and then eventually to places like the Central and the Bay Area. And so by this evening, overnight into next morning, you guys can see isolated to scattered heavy rain. And then not to mention those in the Great Basin and Rockies, you guys are probably going to see remnants of these showers throughout the day and tomorrow. Now going up to 500 millibars of midway to troposphere, this high pressure that we've been looking at all week is still transporting all that moisture from the Pacific into the west coast. And because high pressures are clockwise flow and this is so broad, it's still bringing in a remnants of that moisture into the Canada and Midwest region. And so currently in the plains right now, we do have a little bit of a shortwave trough. And what we know with shortwave troughs is they bring a little bit of vorticity or spin, and that's going to help with the upward motions into areas that it's headed into. Though it's relatively weak, but we have a lot of low level and surface mechanisms that are going to help enhance this snowstorm. So first off, this snowstorm is going to do two things. On the lower half, it's going to produce a lot of ice and sleet, while the top half is going to produce a lot of snow. So places like Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin are definitely going to see this mixed precipitation. Montana and Dakotas are probably already seeing this mixed precipitation and maybe a little bit of ice accumulation as well. And this is probably going to last until about 3 p.m. Central Time, but then places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Western Michigan are going to see this late afternoon into overnight. Eastern Michigan probably won't see any of this snow until late this evening until next morning. And most of the snow accumulation is going to occur in the northern part of these states, Minnesota and Wisconsin, but especially Michigan. Western and northern Michigan are expected to get about 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, but there are some localized places that could get 6 inches or greater. So those surface mechanisms that are helping produce this snowstorm is we have a low pressure somewhere around the plains and a high pressure that's moving away from the Midwest. But with high pressures being clockwise flow and low pressures being counterclockwise flow, we are having a lot of southerly flow, bringing more warm, moist air into this region. And even looking at the low levels at 850 millibars, we also are having some southerly flow, but in addition to that, we are also having above freezing temperatures. And so with the low levels being above freezing, any precipitation is going to fall. It's going to start as snow, melt as rain, and then because the surface is still around freezing temperatures, it's going to cause freezing rain.